Hi everyone, and welcome to the second video of the series exploring the sixth unit of inquiry for grade 4, and specifically the statement, nature empowers people to design and problem solve. So in my last video, we looked at how sunlight and the sun can empower people to design and problem solve. And this time, as you can notice from the theme of the slide deck, we're going to be looking at water, and the official name of today's activity is the waterproof umbrella. So it's just that the name's fancy, there's nothing much to it, but we'll be exploring how water might have empowered us to design and problem solve. So this is a brief overview to today's activity. We're first going to be brainstorming a bit, and then we're going to be doing our main activity. And then we're going to be reflecting on our results and thinking about why our results might have been that way. And finally, we're going to connect all of our results and our thinking back to the unit of inquiry. So, starting off with brainstorming, I've come up with a few guiding questions to get your thinking started. And so let's look at a few of these. What does waterproof mean? What is your own definition of the term waterproof? So think about that. I'll show you the other questions as well. So just you can pause the video whenever and just put some thought into each of these questions. Second question: do you know any waterproof materials and what are their uses in real life? Maybe in our everyday materials. So do you know any waterproof materials and how are they being used as of now? That was the second question. Third question is, why are they waterproof? Why might these materials be waterproof? You don't have to be that scientific to come up with the reasons, but just maybe some logical reasonings. Fourth question, do you know any materials that are not waterproof? So conversely, do you know any materials that are not waterproof, and where can we see these materials in our day-to-day lives? And what is the difference between water-resistant and waterproof? You may or may not have heard of the term water-resistant, so if you do know the term, then think about the difference between something that's water-resistant and something that's waterproof. And if you're not that familiar with the term water-resistant, then continue watching the video and we'll be exploring these concepts later on as well. So that was just a bit of a starter to get your thinking started. And now we'll move on to the official brainstorming. And I've come up with a few ideas for you. So waterproof materials and non-waterproof materials. Some examples of waterproof materials might be rubber that we see in rubber bands, like in this picture. Plastic in our plastic water bottles, and then glass. We see glass in our devices, on our iPads and on our computers. And then Gore-Tex. Gore-Tex is a type of material that we use to make our rain jackets. And paper. We use paper a lot, right? And leather in our clothes, in our shoes. And then fabric, and in this case, I brought up the example of cotton. And finally, wood. And so wood is also non-waterproof. Now that we've come up with some ideas about waterproof materials and non-waterproof materials, let's move on to the experiment. So let's test it out. Which materials turn out to be waterproof? Were all of your hypotheses correct? And so to check this out, I've prepared a really fun and rewarding method, and this is called a waterproof umbrella. So let's first watch the video. Yeah, so that was just a basic glimpse at this method. And so what it basically is in a container, in any kind of container, you can put your gingerbread man cookie in the container, and then you can put a lid on this container with the different types of materials. So like paper, leather, cotton, maybe put some uh, pieces of wood on top of the container, and see if your gingerbread man stays in its shape. If it doesn't, then it probably means that the material did not protect the gingerbread man from the water, meaning that the material is not waterproof. But if it did, if your gingerbread man cookie is dry and it has maintained its shape, then it probably means that your material is safe and dry and waterproof. And just to give you an example of how you might do this with plastic, since we don't really see a plastic lid or a flat piece of plastic. An idea that we could work with is you could put a really small piece of cookie in a water bottle like this, then cap the water bottle and put this water bottle, drown it in water, and see if your cookie, your small piece of cookie, stays dry. And so that's a way to test if plastic is waterproof. And for ceramic, this is also another material that you might use and that we commonly see in our cups. You might be able to put your cookie on the table, and then you put your cup on top of the cookie so that it covers it completely, and then you can pour water on top of the cup to see if your gingerbread man has stayed dry or not. Yeah, so this is a really fun and rewarding method because you get to eat cookies. Method to test if certain materials are waterproof or not. So now let's do a bit of reflection. Which materials kept your gingerbread man dry and safe? If the materials that kept your man dry and safe would be waterproof materials, and if not, they would not be waterproof materials. And now why? Why might those materials that kept your gingerbread man dry and safe, why are they waterproof? And we're not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but there are some things to consider. So first, as I mentioned earlier, what's the difference between waterproof and water resistant? Looking at your results, did your gingerbread man stay completely dry? Was it sort of wet in some cases, or was it completely soaked? And if it was sort of wet, then maybe it means that your material is not completely waterproof. And that might mean that your material is water resistant, meaning that it can act as a waterproof material for a certain amount of time or under certain conditions, but it can't act as a waterproof material for the entire time. And then a waterproof material, on the other hand, is completely unaffected by water. So it will completely protect your gingerbread man cookie and it will keep it dry. And I just wanted to briefly go over these two terms, hydrophilic and hydrophobic. Hydrophilic means water liking, and that this is what Mr. Hydrophilic is saying. And then hydrophobic means water hating. So this is what Mr. and Mrs. Hydrophobic over there are saying. So hydrophilic, liking water, and hydrophobic, hating water. And so maybe materials that like water, materials that are hydrophilic, they might soak water better and they might not be so waterproof. Whereas hydrophobic materials that hate water, might act as a waterproof material more. And finally, let's quickly connect this back to our statement for the unit, nature empowers people to design and problem solve. So our ancestors probably thought about all of these factors because they needed to build shelters to keep themselves dry from the rain, from thunderstorms. And so they probably tested with different materials they could find. And that's how nature empowered us to design and problem solve, to build ourselves our own waterproof shelters. So that's the end of the activity. I hope you enjoyed the waterproof umbrella experiment. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me at this email address. Thanks for watching.